Getting you ready for bowl season there. The very first bowl games do kick off on December 17th. That would be this Friday. You got the Bahamas Bowl against Middle Tennessee going up against Toledo there. The Tail Greeter Cure Bowl, Northern Illinois versus Coastal Carolina. Toledo and Coastal Carolina, both double-digit favorites. But then to kick off your Monday before Christmas, December 20th, we have the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Kent State going up against Wyoming, and the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl going down in Frisco, Texas. The first of two bowl games back-to-back there in Frisco. Let's welcome back Brady Quinn, Danny Cannell here. We're going to go over some of these games, get picks for them, starting with the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Old Dominion going up against Tulsa. Old Dominion 1-6. They were about to lose yet again. They won thanks to a last-second field goal against Louisiana Tech. They have not lost since, but Tulsa here is the big favorite, favored by 9.5. The total is 52. Danny, we'll start with you and your pick.
So this is that time of year, Amanda. You got to find out who wants to be there. That's always the motivation factor comes into play. When I see Old Dominion, as you mentioned, started 1-6, but winning 5 in a row, I also look for the team with the hotter hand. And the Monarchs have come in here on an absolute tear, and they're finding themselves in a 9.5-point underdog, which I actually like. This team is 9-3 against the spread, and they've covered twice when they were underdogs of 9.5 points or more, which is right where the number is at this point. They're also 5-0 against the spread and 4-1 overall when the team records more than 27 points. The reason I bring that up, I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game than the total of 52.5. These are also, too, when we're going to talk about a lot of these games, I've noticed a trend. You know, these teams aren't very good for a reason. They're 6-6. You know, a lot of teams are around 500. A lot of them, the defensive side of the ball struggles. So I think you'll see a higher scoring fair, but give me the Monarchs in the 9.5 in this one and over the total.
We couldn't be any more opposite in this one, Danny. I'd like Tulsa laying the 9.5 here, and I think it's going to be a lower scoring game really for this reason. It's more about the rushing attack when I think you look at Tulsa led by Shamari Brooks as well as Watkins and Prince will pitch in as well. And they actually are a pretty salty defense. I mean, let's look back through the schedule. One of the reasons why they don't have more wins this season is who they played. They had a close loss to Oklahoma State earlier in the season. They almost beat Cincinnati and ruined their season if that was for a controversial goal line stand at the end of that game. And then even versus Ohio State, that was one of C.J. Stroud's worst performances. Yes, a little bit banged up, but at that point in time in the season, a lot of people were questioning what was happening with Ohio State's offense, and in large part, too, to that Tulsa defensive scheme and attack. So I love Tulsa here at this point. I think it laid the 9.5 points. Talk about a hot hand. They won their last 3 to finish off the season. Both these teams finished on winning streaks. So lower scoring game. Both teams are going to try to run the football. Old Dominion, Blake Watson, he's already over 1,000 yards this season. He's kind of their bell cow in the backfield for him. So I think you see a fair amount of that, which will shorten the game. But that Tulsa defense will keep it low scoring enough to cover the 9.5.
Complete opposite sides there. Let's see about this next one. My favorite bowl game, at least the name at least, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. You got Kent State going up against Wyoming. Kent State a 3-point underdog here. And the past 4 times this season, they have been a 3-point dog or more. They have not been able to cover. The total here is 59. Brady, where are you going in this game?
I'm going to take the points in Kent State in this one as far as 3 points. I just think, defensively they're woeful. And maybe their offensive style kind of plays into that a little bit. But Dustin Crum is very capable at the quarterback position. He's a guy, too, that can hurt you a little bit with his legs. He's passed for almost 3,000 yards this season and 16 touchdowns. His favorite target is Dante Cephas when they do want to go to the air. But both the combination of running backs with Marquez Cooper and Xavier Williams. Cooper went over 1,000 yards this season, but Williams over 800. They will stymie with that. So it really comes down to whether or not, in my opinion, Wyoming's going to be able to stop this offensive attack. I don't think they'll be able to, but one guy's name you're going to hear a lot of is linebacker Muma. He's got almost 130 tackles on the season. He has been an absolute tackling machine. So I think Penn State will be able to put up enough points at least to keep this one close, if not outright winning. But I do think it'll end up hitting the under.
I'm with you on the Flashes. I'm on the other side of the total. The Flashes have not lost to a team with 6 or less wins all season long. So they're getting 3 points here. I like them in this one. For Wyoming, too, Craig Bohl has struggled to find consistency at quarterback. So that's always an issue, and it's a big reason why they're struggling to put up points on the board, even though they do have an incredible running back in Xavier Holiday, who's done a fantastic job. but their defense is atrocious, 92nd in the country, which is why I think that Kent State offense with that rushing attack, which is 4th in the country at 243 yards per game, is going to be able to have their way. So I do think it'll be a high scoring again. Again, my trend on these early games with these teams around 500, all of their defenses struggle to get off the field. So I'm going to take the over on this one, but I like Kent State with you and those 3 points.
We got the Frisco Bowl, or the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl, as I should say. UTSA going up against San Diego State. If I was still living in Texas, I would go to this game. UTSA nearly undefeated this season. San Diego State making it to the Mountain West title game. Of course, they lost there. UTSA favored by 2.5. The total here, 49 and a hook. Danny with the turtleneck. We'll get your pick.
All right, I like it. It's turtleneck season, man. I think this is one of the more entertaining bowl games of the bowl season. I know it's early, but this to me is going to be a great matchup. And UTSA had a historic season with Jeff Traylor, the head coach, and they were able to bounce back after a surprising loss. They were going to run the table, and then they lost to North Texas, got blown out by them in the regular season finale, but then got right back on track with a big win over Bailey Zappi and that Western Kentucky offense that was thrown all over the yard. They set the line of scrimmage and won that game, the Conference USA Championship. But this is a bad matchup for them. San Diego State runs the football as good as anybody in the country, but more critically, they stop the run almost as good as anybody in the country. 2nd in the country in defense. Brady Hoke's squad is physical. And the teams that San Diego State struggled with this season were quarterbacks like Jake Hayner, guys that were throwing the ball, Carson Strong. UTSA's Frank Harris is good, but he's not an elite passer. Sincere McCormick's a great running back, but I think he's going to have trouble running against this front. So I like San Diego State as the dog. I like him to win outright, but I also like the under, which has been a winner pretty consistently anytime the Aztecs have played in games because they like to slow the game down. They play great run defense, and they like to run the football with Greg Bell. So I like the Aztecs to win this one outright, but go ahead and take the points too. And I also like the under.
I'm with you on the under. I actually think that is the play in this game because of how both these teams like to play. I mean, UTSA has one of the better defenses for their conference. You talked about Sincere McCormick, but that's the MO of what San Diego State wants to do. And it's somewhat out of necessity too, because the quarterback play has been subpar this year. So it's good defense, rushing attacks for both of these teams. So the under is the play here. But if you're going to ask me to pick one of these two, I'm going to go with UTSA, and I'm going to lay the 2.5 points here. I feel more confident in Frank Harris at the quarterback spot to give you a little bit more balance, a little bit more dual threat ability too, running at the quarterback position to impact that San Diego State defense. So I'll lay the 2.5 here, but the under is the play.
All right, recapping their picks there, at least they both agree on the total in that game, both taking the under, but opposite sides when it comes to the teams. Brady liking UTSA, Danny along the lines of San Diego State when it comes to Old Dominion. Going up against Tulsa, couldn't be on more opposite sides there. Brady likes Tulsa and the under. Danny was going with Old Dominion and the over. Kent State against Wyoming, they both like Kent State, but they are on opposite sides when it comes to the total. Coming up, we've got Army coming off their disappointing loss to Navy in America's game. So can they turn things around in the Armed Forces Bowl? We'll get picks for that game and much more next. Welcome back to HQ, getting ready for bowl season, taking a look at some of the games we're going to be watching on December 22nd and 23rd. This is the day you're tired of your Christmas shopping and you need to stay at home and watch football. North Texas, a great story there, making it to their bowl game. We'll talk about that. Of course, Army coming off that loss to Navy and America's game. We'll see if they can turn things around in this one. Welcome back, Brady Quinn, Danny Cannell here. So let's talk about the Armed Forces Bowl. Mizzou going up against Army. Army is favored in this one. They'd probably like a win after that loss. They're favored by 3.5. The total is 58, a much higher number than we saw, of course, against Navy, which was about 34. Brady, what's your play here?
Well, my play here is the under, in part because you're talking about a flex bone team or an option team in Army who's going to try to eat up the clock, running the football, and tie up the game. But Mizzou likes to run the football too. Tyler Beatty is one of the better running backs in the SEC this season, over 1,600 yards. Look, at the end of the day, if this was during the course of the regular season, I might end up laying the points here with Army. I just think it's hard to prepare for a flex bone, a triple option attack. Yeah, it's incredibly difficult. But when you got weeks to prepare for it, little different story here. That's all you're repping. That's all you're focusing on, all the different variations and different plays you're going to see. So I think that plays to really Mizzou and just the fact that they're going to have the better athletes on the field. So the bottom line is I'm going to take the 3.5 points here because I think Mizzou is going to be the faster team, the more athletic team. But I think the under is the better play. But I still feel confident Mizzou will come out on top.
All right, first of all, I got to address Amanda because you better have all your Christmas shopping done by the 22nd or 23rd. Like, who's still shopping that late? You got to get that put to bed. The other thing is Brady and I are on the op. We got to track these, and I need to win another dinner off Brady. He still owes me one from the Notre Dame Florida State game.
Oh, I've been tracking mine. I don't think you've been tracking yours.
All right.
I've been tracking mine. We know where I stand.
All right, it's all coming down to these bowl picks is what it's come to. I'm on the same side with you, with Mizzou, because I do think they're going to have better athletes out there. I was actually at the game, the Army-Navy game, and if Army couldn't get off the field versus Navy's rushing attack, they're not going to be able to get off the field versus Missouri's rushing attack, because you mentioned Tyler Beatty led the SEC in rushing. He had 5 200-yard rushing games, 3 of which came against SEC defenses. He had 146 versus Florida in that big upset they had over the Florida Gators. So this is no slouch. I think they're going to be able to move the ball at will. I am a little bit concerned at quarterback position. You know, it's an open competition is what Eli Drinkwitz has said. I bet you'll see both quarterbacks play because they're starting to look, hey, let's get guys reps. But Tyler Beatty's going to get a majority of the workload, and I like that. Army's offense, I do think they'll have some success, which is why I like the over, because Missouri's rush defense, even with time to prepare, they were dead last in the SEC. They really struggled to get off the field versus the rush. I think Army still could present some problems. Christian Anderson's had a really nice year for Army at quarterback. I think they'll be able to put up some points. They did it a couple times. They had, 50-plus against Wake, but they gave up 70. I don't think it'll be that high scoring, but I think it'll go over the 58.
Danny, I can still order things up until like the 17th and just ship it to my parents' house in Houston. It will arrive by Christmas Day. I have this planned out. It's fine. It is fine. Let's talk about the Frisco Football Classic. A day after the Frisco Bowl, we got North Texas going up against Miami, Ohio. North Texas went 1-6, won the last 5. They were the team that ruined UTSA's undefeated season. But Miami, Ohio is favored here by 3. The total's 54. Danny, where are you heading in this one?
So this one is a tough one for me. I didn't have a play on the total, but I'm going to go ahead and take Miami of Ohio in this one. From what the UNT started with, North Texas started 1-6. Seth Ruttrell was a little bit on the hot seat, might have saved his job at the end, pulling off that remarkable upset. I just think Miami's got a significant edge at a couple different positions. They're going to be facing a UNT offense, which has put up a bunch of points, but I think their defense, especially almost 250 rushing yards a game and 30 rushing touchdowns. But the Red Hawks led the MAC in scoring defense, rush defense, sacks, and 4th down conversions. So I think this Miami of Ohio defense will get it done against North Texas. And their quarterback, Brett Gabbert, younger brother of Blaine Gabbert, has had a really nice season for them. So I'll go ahead and take Miami and lay the 3 points and trust them to win this game.
I'm with you. I'm laying the 3 points. I like the over. I think there'll be a decent amount of scoring on both sides of this one, but more from the part of Miami of Ohio. You talked about Brett Gabbert. He's got a couple of nice targets to throw to, too. Jack Sorensen, who actually led the team with almost 1,300 yards receiving this season, and quite possibly the best name in college football, Mac Hippenhammer. That'll be the other target he'll be throwing to from time to time. You talked about the defense, though, as well. Pace Jr. and Salopek both have over 100 tackles this season. And Lonnie Phelps was one of the better edge rushers in the MAC this season. So I think Miami's up for the challenge. I think you lay the 3 points. Don't think about it, even though this will be a more high-scoring affair.
We have the Gasparilla Bowl going down in Florida. UCF going up against Florida here. Florida, of note, the news this week, their quarterback Anthony Richardson not expected to play. He had to undergo a little knee surgery there. The Gators are favored by 6.5 in this one. The total 55 and a hook. Brady, what's your play?
It's a tough one to call. I mean, look, Greg Knox has taken over, obviously, for the Fire. Dan Mullen got a nice win versus what was that? Who did that team they played at the end of the year, Danny? I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. Who did Florida beat?
Yeah. They played Florida State. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's
it.
right. Sorry, I had to be reminded of that. No, but look, I would have really loved to see Anthony Richardson at the quarterback spot. I think we've seen enough of Emory Jones to kind of know what he is and what he's not. Really didn't play well in that game versus Florida State. Threw 3 interceptions in that one. So I've just got a lot of concerns. Like, I'm going to lay the 6.5 points. I do not feel good about it, though. At the end of the day, when you look at the way this Florida defense is played, they've struggled mightily at times this year. And UCF has the ability to run the football well. They kind of have like a thunder and lightning deal going on with Johnny Richardson, who's tiny but explosive. And then Mark Anthony Richards is more of the thunder and the bigger back of the two. And I think when you're looking at the way Florida's played and the yards they've given up versus some of their opponents this year, LSU in particular comes to the top of my mind. I mean, they've struggled. So the bottom line is I don't feel great about it. I think the over is probably the better play in this one. But if I have to, I'll lay the 6.5 points.
All right. Is this our first lock unity? I think we're on the same side of this one because I got the Gators laying the 6.5, and I'm on the over as well. I mean, you mentioned, there we go. Give me some confetti. Just keep it raining. So this is a program, like Florida has been incredibly up and down. You got their best shot versus Florida State in a rivalry game. And I do think you'll get, because again, the question goes, well, how bad does Florida really want to be there? 6-6 season. They probably just want the offseason. They thought they would maybe be competing for an SEC championship. Now their coach is gone. You wonder where their mind is. But I do think playing an in-state team like UCF, a lot of these guys probably know each other from high school ranks, talk smack, via Twitter, via social media. I do think you'll get the better, more motivated version of the Florida Gators. And I actually think it probably helps Florida offensively knowing what you're getting in Emory Jones, which is early in the season was a lot of run game. Like you're going to wrinkle in a little bit, but you're not going to trust him out there to throw it, for 400 yards. But you can sprinkle a little play action pass, but you're going to try to run it down the smaller team of UCF. And UCF's season was derailed when Dylan Gabriel went down at the end of that Louisville game. And Mikey Keene has done a nice job in his absence, but it's still not the same. Dylan Gabriel was an incredible quarterback. And UCF offensive line has really struggled to protect him. So I do think the athletes of the Florida Gator defense will be able to chase him around a little bit, but I don't trust them to pitch a shutout or anything. I think this one will be a higher scoring affair too. So give me the Gators, lay the points, and I'll take the over as well.
I really wish they had that confetti going the whole time because it jazzed up that hotel room wherever you are, Danny. All right, lock unity on that. They both like Florida and the over there. Taking a look at the rest of their picks, they both like Mizzou to cover, but on opposite sides when it comes to the total. Brady really liking the under there, and both taking Miami, Ohio to cover the 3 going up against North Texas after North Texas had a huge turnaround this season in order to get to a bowl game. Coming up next, we got the Hawaii Bowl, Memphis versus Hawaii, but how will Memphis fare with their star receiver opting out? We'll get a pick for that and more games next. Things are getting interesting with these bowl games because Danny's in the commercial break trying to change his picks. We're going to ask him why specifically. When it comes to the Hawaii Bowl, Memphis favored by 7.5 against Hawaii, a home game for Hawaii. What his pick was, why he changed it. Welcome back. Brady Quinn, Danny Cannell, taking a look at the games from the 24th through the 27th, the time of year when things just start to not make sense. You don't even know what day it is anymore. Danny, I mentioned during the commercial break you wanted to change your mind when it comes to your pick in the Hawaii Bowl. Memphis favored by 7.5 here. The total is 58 and a hook. What was your pick? What is it now?
So I was going to take Hawaii as the home team here. Touchdown and a half, 7 and a hook. Feels like a big number. Can keep it close enough there. Maybe Memphis might have too much fun when they go to the islands, but they're pretty shut down out there. They're not allowed to do too much out there anyway. It's come to the Cove. That's not why I'm picking it. Hawaii's a little bit of a mess right now with what's going on with Todd Graham, their head coach. Players aren't happy. There's a little bit of a mutiny going on. Plus, I think Memphis is a pretty good team. They've had some pretty nice wins. They beat Mississippi State on a questionable call, but still, they still beat a team from the SEC team. From the SEC, they had a pretty nice win against SMU, who's one of the better teams in the American as well. So I like what Memphis has done all season long. But what I like the most is the total. I'm going with over because we have the 98th best defense in the country scoring-wise, and we have the 92nd best defense scoring-wise in the country. What does that tell you? No one plays defense on either one of these teams. Doesn't matter if guys are transferring out left or right. It doesn't matter. This one's going to be a high-scoring affair. So give me Memphis, lay the 7.5 because Hawaii is a disaster right now, but it's going to be a higher-scoring game, so I'll take the over.
I'm with you on the side of Memphis here, laying the 7.5 points, but I actually think it's going to be a lower-scoring game. Remember, Chevin Cordero, their starting quarterback, has decided to put his name in the transfer portal. He's committed out of San Jose State, so he's moving on. Their leading rusher, Day Hunter, at the running back spot, he's also put his name in the transfer portal. So I wonder not only, how much offensive firepower they have. Braden Shager is expected to start at quarterback for them, but just what the mental headspace is going to be for a team that's got a bunch of guys trying to jump ship right now for a head coach that they feel like maybe hasn't treated them well. Danny, you just mentioned talking about, how much the team that they want to be there. I don't know how much Hawaii wants to play in this game, even though it feels like a home game to them. For Memphis, there's a little bit more on the line. With the win here, they would secure their 8th consecutive winning season. That's pretty significant when you think about it. And meanwhile, Hawaii is just trying to get back to 500. It's not really much to play for in this case. And look, Seth Hannigan has aired it out this year. He's passed for over 3,300 yards and 25 touchdowns. Calvin Austin III is one of the best wide receivers in the country. So I think you're going to see Memphis be able to cover this spread of 7.5. But at the end of the day, as bad as that Memphis defense has been, I think they'll be able to hold up against an offense that I'm not sure what to expect from in Hawaii. And Todd Graham does like to bring a bunch of pressure, so I do think there'll be enough negative plays to keep this one in the under, but lay the 7.5 with Memphis.
Brady, I happen to know that you're very kind. You offered to work Christmas Day, so you're going to be talking about this game. You guys correct me. I know you're going to make fun of me. Is it the Camellia Bowl? I can never get the name of this right. Am I saying it correctly?
Sounds right.
So.
Okay, we're just going to go with that. You got Georgia State going up against Ball State on Christmas Day. Okay, so interesting thing here. We try to find out about these games. Ball State, there's a bunch of redshirt seniors who want to finish their season and their career with a statement win. Their very first game together was against Georgia State. All comes full circle here. Georgia State, though, favored by 4.5. The total is 50. Danny, where do we go?
Man, I'm a sucker for those stories. Guys that want to play. You mentioned it. Drew Plitt, a guy that's been there a long time, another quarterback I covered in a game against Indiana not that long ago. He's had a pretty nice career, been a constant force for them at the quarterback position, 17 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And he's got some nice receivers to throw to in Jayshon Jenkins, Justin Hall, and Johannes Tyler, with pretty nice trio at the receiver position. And Carson Steele is a pretty good running back for Ball State, too. Georgia State has had a ton of success recently. It's their 3rd straight bowl appearance. Another game, they had a pretty nice win against Coastal Carolina. But you mentioned it, the veteran leadership of Ball State. I'll go ahead and take them. And I also think this will be a lower scoring game. Again, if you got teams that want to be there, I think you'll get better effort, which would translate on the defensive side of the ball. Plus, it's not like Drew Plitt's had a nice year, but it's not like this offense is just going to explode all over the place with a bunch of points. So I'll take the under as well, but I'll take Ball State and those 4.5 points as well.
We couldn't be even more opposite sides on this one, Danny. I'm laying the 4.5 here with Georgia State, in part because of the mismatch of the rushing attack of Georgia State versus the run defense for Ball State. They've struggled to stop the run this year. They're giving up 170 yards per game on the ground. When you look at Darren Granger, their quarterback, he's a true dual threat quarterback. He's 3rd on the team in rushing. He's passed for 16 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. And they've got 2 800-plus yard backs in Tucker Gregg and Jamius Williams. So I do think that rushing attack for Georgia State will be enough to cover the 4.5 points. But I think both teams will have a fair amount of scoring, at least to go over that number at 50. So complete opposite sides here.
Quick lane bowl, Western Michigan going up against Nevada. Western Michigan is the favorite in this one by 3.5. The total is 59. Brady Quinn, let's see if you guys can get on the same page with this one. What's your pick?
Well, I like the over in this one, but to me, this is more about the matchup between Nevada and that pass-happy attack with the quarterback Carson Strong. This is his last chance for NFL talent evaluators to check him out and see what he's able to do against one of the better pass defenses in the country in Western Michigan. So I think that's what this game ultimately comes down to. And look, we've seen Western Michigan versus a great opponent in the ACC in Pitt be able to find a way of getting a win in that one. So I'll lay the 3.5 points here, but I think the over is the better play between the two. My question is more of like, where's Nevada at this point, right? Jay Norvell has left to take the Colorado State head coaching job. The running back coach, Vi Tao, is taking over now as the interim head coach. So kind of curious to see how that goes, and kind of curious to see if the offensive line can stop Ali Fayad, who led the MAC, the MAC Defensive Player of the Year with 11.5 sacks. He can truly get after it. And it's not like Caleb Ellaby, who led the MAC in passing yards, has anything to bat an eye at either at quarterback for them. So I like Western Michigan here. I just think it's a better matchup for their style of play compared to Nevada, which if they can't throw the football with Carson Strong, if he's getting a lot of pressure, they can't run the football either. So it could be a long day for him.
Man, we got to track these, Amanda, because we are on all opposite sides again. But this one I'll tell you what I would do, what I would recommend doing is waiting to see the health of Carson Strong, because his knee has been a question mark. And we talked to Ryan Wilson about that in the mock draft. One of the reasons he dropped out of the mock draft first round, because there are question marks about his knee. I do have to believe he's going to play this game because, like Brady mentioned, he does need to have another performance, to like his last chance to impress. And I think against the Western Michigan team, which, you know, that they were able to beat Pitt, but I'm pretty sure Kenny Pickett, I think he had 6 touchdowns in that game, or at least he had a really good passing day. It was not his fault. He was able to throw it on that defense. So I think Carson Strong will end up playing. You might want to wait till game time. I'm assuming he is. That's why I took Nevada in the 3.5 points. And the 59 was just a little bit too much for me, so I took the under on that one as well. We are on opposite sides again, man.
I do want to mention for people watching, we are going to pick over the course of a couple of weeks all 42 bowl games, so you can check out those picks for the ones we've already done on CBSSports.com. The last one for this hour, we got the Military Bowl. Boston College going up against East College here. Boston College is favored by 3, the total 51 and a hook. You guys have been on complete opposite sides the past 2 games. Let's work for a little unity here. Danny, what's your play?
All right, so this is going to be a fun game. East Carolina's a pretty good team, but Boston College, to me, has more talent, and they've got their quarterback back in Phil Dracovic, who he decided he wanted to get a better education, so he left Notre Dame to go to Boston College in the ACC and get a fine academic institution. And then you could tell what type of quarterback he was when in his absence, how much Boston College struggled. But the fact that he's back now, I do think this will push Boston College over the edge. And I also think Jeff Hafley is one of the better coaches in the conference. He's done a really nice job at Boston College, kind of stabilizing things. He's a defensive mind. And I do think Boston College's defense will be able to hold East Carolina in check. So I'm on the under here as well. But give me Boston College, lay the 3 points, and I'll take the under.
Hey, some lock unity, except for that shot you took at the Notre Dame education compared to, well, I'm not even going to compare it to Florida State's education, all right? I'll just leave that at that. But, you know, it's funny. There really hasn't been a significant output difference when Phil Dracovic has come back in for BC this year. The biggest difference you've seen in their passing production is from last year to this year, 100 less yards per game for the BC passing attack with Phil Dracovic. It's been a different year for him. A little more difficult finding that, but it's really Pat Garwo the second who you're seeing now. He's been a steady piece in the backfield for Boston College, 4th in the AC in rushing this season. But this game's going to come down to this. BC is the best pass defense in the country, taking on that passing attack for ECU. And so whether or not ECU can throw the football versus that stingy Jeff Hafley-led defense, that's going to be the biggest key in this one. Danny, I'm with you. I think it's going to be an ugly game, though. Low scoring, play the under here. That might be the best bet of this whole thing, especially if running back Keaton Mitchell for East Carolina starts to go off. Well, but the bottom line is I'll lay the 3 points. The under is the play.
Look at Danny.
Make it rain.
This is what they do at Florida State. See, they don't give you anything at Notre Dame for getting good grades and that sort of thing. At Florida State, though, that's all you guys do, just throw the confetti and party.
No, we did. We got academic stickers on our helmet. I had several of them. If I was in my home office, I would show them to you, but I'm not.
We didn't need academic stickers because we was already a good academic institution. We don't have to show that off on our helmet for everyone.
And this is where we're going to end it. We're going to let them continue this off air, but we will say there was lock unity, at least on one of those games at the very end there. Boston College going up against East Carolina there, both taking Boston College and the under, but total opposite sides when it comes to Georgia State versus Ball State, Western Michigan, Nevada. They both like Memphis to cover, but on opposite sides when it comes to the total. And yes, I am keeping track here. I have all of these written down, so we'll let you know after a couple weeks how they go. Brady Quinn, Danny Cannell, I'm Amanda Guerra. Enjoy the rest of your day. More HQ after this. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.